Hello, filter-free America listeners. We are back together again, and I'm going to tell you up front, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode than what you normally get here, okay? You need to know that this episode is essentially two different episodes put together, like seamed together in the form of podcast editing. And the first part, maybe not going to be everybody's bag. Maybe not. But, bear with me. Maybe it is going to be. Who knows? Second part of the episode is going to be not so much an interview as much as a conversation with a good friend of mine and a fellow comedian from here in the Twin Cities, a comedian by the name of Robert Baril. He'll be in the second part of the episode. Now, if you're a regular listener, it doesn't always go down like this. Actually, it never goes down like this. Normally, talk a little shit in the beginning. We have like an interview or conversation in the middle, and then I'll talk a little shit in the back, right? But when I recorded this episode with Robert, we recorded it on July 3rd of this year, 2019. I did something towards the end of the recording that muted out or just made the sound drop. I don't know what it is. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm not going to worry about it. But of the hour plus the recorded hour and a half that we recorded, only 48 minutes of it were usable. But again, lucky for me, this was a conversation about multiple topics, and it wasn't like something that we needed to hear the beginning and the end to make sense of it. I just whacked off the end of the episode. Probably did that too. I whacked off the part that was unlistenable, and it worked out fine. And we still cover a few topics related to kind of some social things in the world, and kind of I'm not gonna say it's about politics, but we talk about politics, if that makes sense, and kind of our perspectives of what's going on with politics and all that. But I'll give you a better detail of what's going to happen here after we get past this first part. Now, the first part of this episode is the new part. And by new means, I'm just going to try it this time, see if it works, see how you guys respond to it. Basically, I'm just going to spend the first part of the podcast kind of going through the Filter-Free America podcast mailbag. I've acquired quite a few emails and questions and things from listeners since we've been back doing the podcast thing for going on a year now. It'll be a year. The last week of this July will be our official year back, I guess anniversary, whenever that is. So I'm just putting together, a list of all the mail stuff I've been saving. And I originally thought I was going to do an episode that was just going to be just the mailbag thing. But I don't know if I could listen to that the whole time. And then plus I figured out that I could recover part of that episode. So what I'm going to do is just combine these two together. I'm going to give you some of the mailbag stuff up front, and then we'll get to the second part, which is going to be the actual conversation between me and Robert. Hope you guys are cool with that. And some of the questions are pretty cool. So you're gonna learn a little bit more about me. You're gonna learn a little bit more about the lore of the podcast. Am I reading too much into the value of this podcast to the world, that it has a lore? I don't know. So we're gonna talk about that stuff too. And I got a funny story. Well, maybe a funny story that I want to share with you as well here in the beginning. But real fast, let me mention the sponsor name of the podcast. Our sponsor of the podcast is simplewebsite.us. Simplewebsite.us. One more time, simplewebsite.us. Regular listeners, you guys know what it is, but let me tell the new folks here what simplewebsite.us is. Okay, here's the deal. You've heard of Squarespace, right? Everybody knows what Squarespace is. It's a website builder. It allows you to go to their site, and you're supposed to be able to simply create your own website using the tools that they provide for you. Okay, here's the deal. Not everybody can figure it out. Person talking into the microphone right now is one of those people. I tried to build my own Squarespace website, and I couldn't do it. Mainly because I don't have patience and I'm probably high. But that being said, I turned to Simple Website and they did it all for me, right? Simple Website said, hey, you want a website? We can build you a website. I said, fantastic, because I need a website, but I don't want to make any effort whatsoever. They said, that's fine, Joey. Just send us all the ideas that you have. We'll slap it together and we'll make you really happy. And they did that. If you'd like to see the website they built for me, go to filterfreeamerica.com. Filterfreeamerica.com. America always intentionally misspelled with the letter K.com. And you will see the website that they build and maintain for me. And I've been saying this for literally months. I need to do some updates to it, and it's not their fault. It's my fault, because they do that for me. They just say, hey, just send whatever updates you need, and we'll update it. But I've been neglecting making that email to them, which is probably the easiest fucking thing I could possibly do. But you guys know me. Now, back to Simple Website. This is how these episodes go. They get a little bit screwy. Back to Simple Website. They don't have to do everything for you like they've done for me in the Filter Free America podcast website. No, if you just want a little bit of help on your website building, go there anyway, talk to them, and they will take a website that you've already started, one that you've already completed, and help you with it. If you want to improve it, there's some things you don't understand about it, they can do all that stuff for you. The guys and gals of simplewebsite.us, they know every turn, every twist in the maze of the Squarespace website builder, and they have the skills there ready and waiting to help you. I sound like Elmer Fudd there for a second. Ready to help you, okay? And get this, even if you don't want their help at all, you don't want them to build it completely, you don't want them to touch your website, still go to simplewebsite.us, because once you get there, you will find some free tips and tricks that you can just steal. You can just take them. You don't have to leave any money. You don't have to say thank you. You don't have to have any clothes on when you go there. You just go there. You get the free tips and tricks. You get the hell out of there, right? And that will help you build your Squarespace website on your own, by yourself, whatever. All right. Now let's move on. I'm going to share this little story with you. A person or company that's not a sponsor, and probably will never be a sponsor after this little segment of the Filter Free America podcast, is Lifetime Fitness in Plymouth, Minnesota. Lifetime Fitness in Plymouth, Minnesota. If you're not familiar with Lifetime Fitness is a gym company. I think they're all over the country. I've only had memberships with them here in Minnesota, but I'm assuming they're everywhere. If not, play along with the podcast. I've been a member of Lifetime Fitness for over 2 years now. Yeah, over 2 years, I believe. Just slightly over 2 years, or maybe just at 2 years. No, it is over 2 years. Whatever. Okay. I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy whatsoever. And I'm going to share a little story with you about that. Now, first, to be fair, I'm going to tell the good points of Lifetime Fitness as I know them. Number one, it's a complete gym. It's a complete gym. It's not the cheapest gym at all. I think this might be one of the more expensive ones here in the Twin Cities. And it cost me like $60 a month, I think is what I pay. But they have, the location I go to has everything. Has swimming pool, has hot tub, indoor, outdoor pool, sauna, has the courts, basketball courts, racquetball courts, and has dope equipment. I'm not gonna lie, has dope. And they just recently added new equipment. It's well-equipped place. Multiple levels, plenty of space. There's not a lot of waiting for the equipment. That's legit. Okay. Good points. Another good point. 50% to 70% of the people working there are nice people. They do their job very well. When you walk in, they greet you with a smile on their face, and they're very polite and very helpful. And I enjoy the fact that I pay a high price for the gym when I run into those people. But not all of them are good. Okay. Aside from some few minor things, and these can just happen, right? Sometimes it's not as, the busier hours, it's not as upkept as well as it can be, right? Sometimes the little disinfectant towels used to wipe down stuff, because, I've got a little OCD. Sometimes those are multiple units of those things are empty. But aside from that, again, those are all just minor things. All right. Now I'm going to tell you about the big issue and how it carried over until today. And this big issue started over a year ago, and it started with a jug of urine. Let that sink in. Jug of urine. Okay. About, I guess it was a year ago last winter. Yeah. So it's been over a year. I went to the gym one morning, and it was before I go to work. I would go early in the morning, usually hit the gym about maybe 9:30 in the morning, right? Pull in there, park my car, start walking to the gym. I always park in the back, right? Because I don't like my car to be close to other cars. And I figure if you're going to the gym, you need to get as many extra steps as you can possibly get. So I'm like, why would you want to park close to the door? You'd want to walk there, but whatever. So I walk there, and as I'm walking to the door, about to cross the crosswalk, I look down on the kind of the curb right next to the what would be the what is that called? Like the decorative kind of area within the parking lot where there's plants and shit. It's wintertime, so there's no green stuff going on, but there was sitting on the curb of that little planter area, was a gallon jug, like a gallon jug that a gallon of milk would come in. And it was over halfway full, but it wasn't milk. It was, as you've probably guessed, urine, bright yellow urine, right? Like I didn't drink it. I didn't taste it. I didn't smell it. But you know what urine looks like inside of a jug. So I'm assuming that somebody, was peeing in the parking lot. Like they couldn't go into the gym, or maybe they left the gym and forgot to pee or something. And they were peeing there, but it was a lot of piss, right? Like it seemed like it was like a half thing of piss. So I don't know. A lot of times I'll see cars that look like they're like travelers, right? Like they're in a truck with like a fifth wheel or something. So maybe they live in another part of the country that's got like a Lifetime Fitness, and then they leave and then travel and go to Lifetime Fitnesses. And maybe they just, as they're driving, didn't want to, mess up their inside of their vehicle, and they peed in a jug, right? And then they just left that jug on the curb. Now, normally, for most people that might be bothersome, but growing up in the environments that I've grown in and lead the life that I've led, gallon of urine, maybe not such a big thing. I was like, yeah, I'm paying a high premium to go to this gym, and yeah, I really don't want to see somebody's jug of piss as I walk in the door, but things happen. So I just basically walked in and checked in at the gate. I said, hey, just a heads up, somebody left a gallon of urine on the curb of your parking lot. It's right as you're walking the door. It's right on the left side. I tried to be helpful, let them know, right? So I'm thinking that's good. They're going to take care of it right away, because what company wouldn't want to, to have a gallon of urine sitting in the parking lot, right? So I went ahead and did my little workout thing. I usually work out for about an hour to an hour and a half is about my average time in the gym. All right. And then I left and went upstairs and went out to the parking lot, and lo and behold, gallon of urine still there. I'm like, oh, they must be busy this morning. I'm sure they'll take care of that. I left, went home, showered, went to work. Came back the next day, parked my car and walked into the building. Jug of urine, still right there in the exactly same spot. Now, let me clarify here. This is not like a jug of urine, like way in the back of the parking lot, kind of shoved off in a corner somewhere, not obvious. No, when you go to this gym, you pull into the parking lot. Like there's like one drive that goes in, it splits off left or right side of the parking lot. And then there's like two little crosswalks that kind of, lead from both sides of the parking lot and goes into the gym area. And what I'm talking about is like the area where this jug of piss was like right there by the crosswalk. Like you couldn't drive into there. If you were looking, you would look right at it as you made the right turn. You would see the curb thing sitting there, jug of piss right there, just a festering, bubbling up. Like good thing it was wintertime. It was, it was cold. It wasn't like freezing yet, but it was like, kind of that November, I think was when this was happening. So it wasn't like a frozen chunk of ice pee, right? It was just loose pee in a cold environment. So I'm sure there wasn't a lot of funk or anything like that coming off of it yet. I didn't get close enough to examine it thoroughly, but what have you. And parked my car. This is again day 2. Went in there. Hey, there's still a gallon of piss there. P, like P. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll take care of it. I don't remember if that's the same person or not. I talked to multiple. Anyway, this went on for 7 days. 7 days in a row, right? And I didn't go 7 days in a row, but like I went like 2 or 3 days in a row, and I would skip a day, and then I would go back, and jug of urine's still there. Now, in all fairness, maybe it was different jugs of urine, right? Like maybe there was a urine bandit pissing in jugs, and they would go out there and remove them, and then he or she would come back and put another gallon and a half filled of piss, jug of urine. Maybe that happened. I don't think so. Okay. Anyway, it went on multiple days, right? And I don't know. Am I an asshole for getting progressively a little bit more like, fuck you guys. What I'm paying $60 a month to come work out. And the first image I have to see as I pull into your parking lot is jugs of piss, right? This is not a bad area. Plymouth is a very nice city, right? This gym is a very pricey, supposed to be well-kept gym, right? Whatever. I would tell them multiple times. One of the ladies I spoke to, I told her more than once, at least three times, right? And eventually got to like the 7th or 8th day, and I'm like, and there's somebody was in the parking lot, and they were looking at it too. I'm like, yeah, it's a jug of piss. It's been there forever, right? And they're like, why don't they move it? I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I've been trying to tell them. They're like, someone should do something. So I went into the building, and I was like, look, I need to speak to a manager about this jug of piss outside, which is, you don't get to say that much in life. You don't ever get to say, let me speak to your manager about a jug of piss. Can I talk to your supervisor about a jug of piss? I think I said urine. I wasn't trying to be too much of an asshole, but I was frustrated. Right? I'm like, hey, manager person, over the last 7 days, there's been a partially half-filled gallon of urine in your parking lot, and I've told multiple people, and it's still there. Could we do something about that? Just, because it's urine. And I went to work out, and it got taken care of, okay? Here was my problem. The lady that was working that day was the lady who was at the counter, the reception lady. Was the same lady who I had told at least 2 or 3 times about the gallon of piss. Okay? She knew the gallon of piss was there. It was no secret between her, right? She wasn't oblivious to the fact that urine was sitting out there in a jug. She knew because I told her multiple times, right? And I didn't expect her to run out there and do it, right? Maybe they had a maintenance person that would do stuff like that. That would be the urine fetcher, right? Or maybe they had a specific person that was 100%, that was their job, was to retrieve containers of urine. I don't know how that works, right? But I just thought it should be done, right? Anyway, clearly she got a talking to about that because I told her, I was like, yeah, I've told that lady right there like 3 days. Like she's standing right there. I didn't hide it. I'm like, yeah, multiple days. Could we do something about that? I told her like 3 days. 3 of the days I've told her and a couple other people. So clearly she had a talking to. I don't know. If I'm a dick for that, please let me know. But ever since that day, up until today when I went to the gym, whenever she's working the desk, she does not even speak to me, right? Like I am very friendly, very polite, more so than most people up here in Minnesota because I am of Southern birth. And it's very ingrained in me to be very politeful and very respectable. And then plus I try to make people happy for a living. So it's ingrained in me to be polite and be talkative. I don't want anybody to think I'm a dick. They're not going to listen to my podcast. They're not going to buy my comedy. But ever since that day, whenever she's working, dude, it's weird, right? It's like she, at first I thought, well, maybe it was just something was going to pass or whatever. But no, it's been like that for over a year now, right? or just about a year. And I'll go to I'll be behind somebody else in line, getting ready to hand my card, so they can scan my card to allow me passage into this gym. And like, she'll be friendly with the person front and talk, hey, how you doing? And when it's my turn in line, she puts on this just a fake smile and very like dead look in her eyes and doesn't ever respond. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Good morning, whatever. No answer, right? And that's been going on for about a year now. Because it was a wintertime. Yeah. So it's been over a year now. Every time she's working, that is the attitude that I get from her. I didn't say anything to her today, but you know what? It just got to the point of like, oh, I'm so like, you're mad at me because you didn't do what you had to do, right? Like if I have a job and my job is to, I don't know, fucking raise chickens, and then I don't raise the chickens, and then I get in trouble for not raising the chickens, feeding them, watering them, or whatever, and I get a talking to by the head farmer, who the fuck am I going to be mad at, right? Not going to be mad at you, right? Because you reported the chickens that needed to be fed. No, I'm mad at myself, right? Like, why couldn't we just move past this? Like, okay, you should have said, oh, you know what? Hey, I probably should have said something about that gallon of urine sitting out front of the fucking gym that we charge people $60 a fucking month to show up to, because maybe they don't want to see a gallon of piss first thing when they walk in the door and when they leave, right? Who wants to see that? Who wants to see a gallon of piss after you just worked out in the fucking gym? You know, your muscles hurt, you're wore out, you're tired, right? You don't want to see a fucking gallon of piss, right? You want to see something refreshing or something energizing, right? Maybe if the piss was like a Bellagio fountain of piss, and like a little fucking piss fountain, shot up in the air as you left. Like, congratulations, you worked out really hard. Here's a piss fountain. Maybe. Point is, I think I'm done with Lifetime. And that's petty. Maybe that's a thing. Like, oh, fuck it. She's just not happy. But you know what? I don't fuck that. I'm very polite, right? I don't fuck around at the gym, right? I'm not like one of the old fucking geezers in the locker room trying to fucking cock gaze at dudes in there. And that happens. There are some dudes that go to that fucking gym, right? All hours of the day. There's some old fucking men, and I swear that's all they do. Like, I see them coming in, I'll see them in the locker room. I don't ever see them in the fucking gym. I only see them in the locker room. And like, they're just fucking in there. They're chilling, watching a little fucking TV, straddling the fucking benches, dicks hanging out. I'm like, are you guys just in here gazing dick? Is that because you could do that at home? You don't have to pay $60 a month. You don't have to walk past a gallon of piss to look at gaze at dicks. You just fucking get them on your phone. Dicks to your phone now. We're in the future. Don't ever go to the gym late at night either. Don't go to the gym like late in the evenings, because that's when shit gets really... I made the mistake. I used to go like, I've always gone in the morning time, late afternoon. A couple times if I missed a workout or if I was frustrated, I just wanted to go, work off some steam or whatever, I'd go late at night. Shit gets fucking weird in there. There's some fucking creepers. And I'm not saying that. I'm not putting that on Lifetime Fitness in Plymouth. I'm putting that on every gym, because I've been to gyms, multiple gyms across this country, and late night gym sessions can be dicey. But whatever. Point is, I think I'm done with Lifetime Fitness in Plymouth. I think I'm done. I really am. And again, could be petty, could be whatever. But I don't know. I pay $6 a month. Don't treat me like I'm a fucking asshole because you couldn't do something about a fucking gallon of piss. How? That's so frustrating to me. Like, I would be embarrassed. Like, I can't think of a job that I've had. Even I've had some jobs I fucking hated, but I wouldn't hate it so much or not want to do it so much that I would just ignore a customer telling me there's a fucking gallon of piss in your fucking parking lot. I'm not going to do that. Am I wrong? I don't know. All right, that's the story. Another quick announcement I want to make before we get going on some of these emails and things like that. We're only 24 minutes in. This is doing great. If you're interested, if you live in the Twin Cities area, number one, okay, and you have reliable transportation, you're a dependable person, and you're interested in working with the Filter Free America podcast, I am looking for a very specific type of person to partner with. Somebody who, number one, interested in podcasting, but somebody specifically and most importantly, who has skills in video editing. Not intense, crazy video stuff. I just want to do some very simple YouTube related content related to the podcast on YouTube. And the stuff I want to have done is very simple stuff. So if you're interested in podcasting, if you want to learn about podcasting, you want to do some kind of exchange of like you come in and help me with this stuff here and I help you get your own podcast started. That's something we can do too. Or if you specifically enjoy the show, you live in the area, you want to be a partner with the show, eventually someday I would love to make some money doing this. We can maybe work on something or talk about some kind of agreement where if you come in and partner, help out with the podcast, we can put some money in your pocket if money ever does arise from this venture. But yeah, contact me via the Filter Free America website, filterfreeamerica.com, America misspelled with a K, or you can just email me directly, whichever you prefer to do, filterfreeamerica@gmail.com, and talk to me about that. And again, and also want to include in that, if you're somebody in the Twin Cities area who wants to start their own podcast and you either have the skills to do it or you need to learn the skills, that's a good thing we can exchange too. Like we can come in, if we can work out something where you can record your podcast here with me and I can, help you do all that stuff and exchange the services. But whatever, contact me if you're interested in that. All right. Let's knock out these, the slide. And again, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. There was no way I started looking at all the different emails and different messages and stuff. And I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm going to read all this stuff in one session, or especially the way we're doing this episode. So if your message didn't get read, it was because it was either very similar to another one that I think I'm going to answer, or I'm just saving it for later, and then maybe I'll answer some individually as episodes progress or something like that. But most people except the new messages I've responded to directly and answered the questions already. But some people just like their stuff on the podcast, so I appreciate that too. All right, this is one of the first one here is one of those ones that I got a lot of feedback about. And if you're not a regular listener or you don't follow me on social media, I had a dog pass very recently, a dog I love very, very much. Her name was Daisy. She was a pit bull. And I say pass, she didn't just die. She had very aggressive cancer. It was kind of in her breast area of her body. The veterinarian told me that it was related to her getting, what is it? Was it with the girl dogs that spayed, right? Girl dogs get spayed, boy dogs get neutered. I think that's right. Whichever one it is. But if you get it done too old in their life, like she was 5, I think, when she had it done, 4 or almost 5 or just after 5, something, it can trigger this cancer, and it's very aggressive and it's very bad. And the vet told us, look, you got about 4 to 6 months at best. And by the end of that 4th month, she could barely walk, had a huge tumor on her belly. She was suffering, and we had to put her down. But I've gotten a lot of emails about that, being very sympathetic and tell me, they're sorry to hear what it was. And I definitely want to say, I'm already tearing up now. I appreciate it very much. The dog meant a whole lot to me. I got my other dog, Bentley, and then I just got a new dog who was given to me by somebody else, and I love her very much too. But Daisy was a very, very special dog. I have lots of dogs. She was a very special one. And it sucks, but I appreciate you guys as being paying attention enough to me to send me messages about that. I really appreciate that. And coincidentally, I think I haven't emailed him yet. I haven't asked him yet, but I want to try to get her veterinarian in here to talk to me about some vet stuff, and specifically, having to put down dogs. Right. And I think it would be an interesting conversation to have, not only just because of the topic, but because this veterinarian, and I don't want to say his name until I talk to him and get okay and everything from him, is the best veterinarian I've ever met in my goddamn life. And I mean that in all, I'm not exaggerating in any kind of way. This guy had a bedside manner that you don't see in most hospitals, right? It was fucking amazing how kind and how good of a veterinarian he was. I was so impressed with him. And I promise you guys, I'll send an email out to him and see if I can get him to come into the studio, have an episode, sit down, record an episode with me. Dude is a hell of a human being, and definitely made it as easy as possible could be dealing with Daisy's passing. All right, got that one taken care of. All right, next one here is from Justin. He said, this is one of the deep metaphorical, or not metaphorical, but deep thinking kind of question here. He wanted to know what I thought was the greatest risk to human species / race, physically, spiritually, and socially. That's a good question. Don't know if I'm the one qualified to give the answer, but I'll give you the answer that I got. And it's not that this is not a subject I don't think about. If you listen to this episode, I kind of care about the world around us, not in a squishy fucking overly liberal way, but in like a fucking I'm a human being, you're a human being way. The biggest risk to human species, and this is my honest to God answer, is I think it's us. I think it's us. I think it's human beings are the greatest risk to the human species. All right. And I say that because the ego and the greed of humanity is a very powerful and destructive thing. Okay. I've seen it in a lot, and what gives me, if I have a uniqueness to me and my point of view and my perspectives, is I've had a lot of different experiences with different humans at different socioeconomic levels. That's what I think it is, right? I've been super poor. I've lived around and near other super poor people, poor for America at least. I've had little bits of money here and there. I've been around people who have a whole lots of money. I've seen a lot of different things, but the one common thing that I've always seen, and a lot of this is reflection, looking back, and a few mushroom adventures, is the commonality is our ego and our greed. And I'm not saying that as me pointing fingers at the world. It's I'm pointing at myself as well too, because a lot of my failures and mistakes and things that I've made in life have been ego and greed related, still are. And I think that majority of those problems are those things, man. Ego in the sense that it's not always about, I've got such ego, I'm so great. But I think it's also ego in the fact that we overestimate our abilities or our things, especially as individuals, right? We think that we can do something to the world or inject something into the world or alter something in the world. And by that, it could be something on a very large scale, like multinational scale, or just within the nation or within the state or within your city or within your neighborhood or whatever. We think that we can do some things that we either don't think out the possible results, don't anticipate them, or don't care, or think we can handle them when the problems arise. So that's what I mean by the ego. And of course, greed. I mean, greed is obvious. And again, guilty as anybody else, and again, I don't want to, I don't want to come across as a super squishy liberal guy, because I'm not, but I do care about other people. And that's something that I've learned as I've aged and gotten older. There's a lot of exploitation at every level and multiple angles in multiple different areas. And I think we've lost a little bit of empathy and a little bit. I think we've got very little left, speaking as the world as a whole, for a fellow human being. And we talk about this a lot in the episode of this episode that you're going to hear when we get to the part with the conversation with Robert Baril, the comedian. I think I touch on this a little bit in that conversation, but yeah, man, I think to answer your question again, it's really us. It's what we do from this point on, right? It's how much longer are we gonna Are we going to hate each other? Are we going to distrust each other? Are we going to hold others down as we're trying to claw our ways up? How much longer can we do that? And when I say ego and greed, also, it's what makes us great, right? Those two things, along with some other elements of humanity. But ego is a big part of what makes us great, right? The ego, the drive to improve the world or to do things that haven't been done, to have an ego that says that we can do that is important too. I think we'd be limited as a species if we didn't have this ego. And that's kind of like when they talk about the dual edge to the sword, it's our greatest strength and it's also our greatest flaw. So I guess balance is what we need. Next question. Is this a question? Yeah, it's multiple questions. This is from Steve L. Or Stephen L. Yeah, Stephen. How do I meet my guests? Multiple questions here. How do I meet my guests? I don't know if I have a plan. Like a lot of the guests that you've heard on this podcast thus far, and before, if you're a regular listener from before when Filter Free America was a podcast, are people that I know, people that I've met, and people either through comedy or through friends of friends, or seeking out certain people on certain topics. Take a drink here, excuse me. And so I don't know. Sometimes I'm just lucky. Sometimes right place, right time. And sometimes I just go out and I hunt for it, I'm trying to think. I can't think of a name off the top of my head right now, but I'll just contact people. Like, hey, I do this podcast and I would like to have a conversation with you. And this is what I want to talk about. Sometimes it's that simple. So, I hope that answers the question on that one. And another one he's got here is like, how are you doing so well without prior popularity of other podcasts, or are you super famous in your corner of the world? No, not at all. Quite the opposite, actually. How are you doing so well? I'm restating it here so I can answer. How are you doing so well without popularity of other podcasts? Well, actually, this used to be a podcast before. And is it doing that well? I think it's doing really well for being back for a year, and based on the numbers and the rate of growth. If you look at all those metrics, it feels like it's doing really good. And people who I know who are in the podcast industry, who I consult with and who help me on things, they're very impressed with the numbers, and I think it's really, really good. But that being said, back when I started this podcast originally with a friend of mine, also named Steve, we did really well then. And I was actually doing better numbers then than I'm doing right now. I mean, the rate of growth between this last year versus the years I was doing it between 2011 and 14, the rate of growth is greatly increased right now. But 2011, we were doing more numbers per day. Like we were at the point where we were doing over 1,000 downloads a day, which may not seem like a lot, but that's a lot for, number one, being a nobody comedian, right? Nobody fucking knows who I am. Nobody gives a shit. But at that time I was even I was a brand new comic, and I started in late 2010. And, for some reason I had ego again, that thought I could just do a podcast. So here's what it was. When I started doing, comedy, one of the first things I got turned on to was podcasts, and the two podcasts I was turned on to were Joe Rogan's podcast and Mark Maron's podcast. And they were tremendous tools for comedians, especially Maron's. Well, both of them at the time, but Maron's at the time was mostly just comics. He was just talking to comics, and every episode was a comic. And as I'm going to open mics and I'm going to a comedy class that was here in town, I was also listening to these podcasts and it was feeding my brain. I was just deeply immersed in comedy. And in that time, I'm like, you know what? I want to do a podcast too. Never fucking heard of one of you. Year before that, I didn't know what a fucking podcast was. I know what pod people were. I didn't know what a fucking podcast was. But I just met a friend of mine who's in music and recording. He had the equipment and let's do a podcast. You know what? I want to do one too. I was like, okay, let's just do one. We started doing it and did basically what I'm doing now. I think right now is a much more refined version of what I was doing before. mainly because, I've been doing it for 8-something years now. So I'm a little bit more experienced, and of course your process is going to refine and your skills are going to improve. But basically it was the same thing. We would just get comedians, fucking MMA fighters. What else did I have? Strippers, strip club bouncers. What are some other weird ones I had? I think, some political related things. And just sit down and talk to people. Oh, I had a dominatrix. I interviewed a dominatrix. I was like, that was maybe my favorite episode from the early days of Filter Free America. Was I had a dominatrix in, and she actually beat me, gently beat me during an episode. And sadly, that's one of the episodes that was lost in time that we no longer have. But maybe I'll talk to another dominatrix soon if I can find one. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. But back then, we were doing more numbers, and that was impressive back then, especially because podcasting wasn't what it is right now. In 2011, yeah, Rogan was doing good. Yeah, Marin was doing good, but we didn't have the amount of podcasts and podcast listeners that we have today. So that's probably part of it. Is there's just more listeners out there now. I've learned from my my early years of doing it, so I feel I'm skillful at it. People enjoy the show. I've got a good product, I think, based on your guys' you listeners. I think you guys approve of the product. You like the product. And if I bring anything else to the table, it's definitely not any kind of fame. Definitely not Twitter. Yeah, I think I'm funny. But fame is a very, it's like a perspective thing. I guess it's relative. Do people know me? Yeah. Am I famous? Not even close. I know way more famous people that I could point you to. But I think the only thing I really bring to the table that may be different is just applying old life experiences to what I'm doing with podcasting. And I do that with all of my comedy. And it's just, early in my life, check the old episodes. I've talked about it. I used to be a crack dealer. I used to sell crack cocaine. I used to be a street level, not wealthy, street level fucking crack cocaine dealer. I was hustling then, right? I grew up in a poor environment where hustling was a means of survival, and like it or love it, And I always say how it's a point of time in my life that's embarrassing. But that said, I did acquire a lot of skills, a very unique skill set that not everyone has, and a desire to achieve, or what's the word? I guess just a willingness to not give up, or to keep grinding. So use a hustler term, grinding, to get what I want to get to, right? I want to do well at comedy. I want to be able to perform comedy with more people. I want my podcast to be successful. I want more people to listen to my podcast. So I'm going to do things that not everyone's going to do. I'm going to hustle, right? I'm going to try to find unique, new ways to get in contact with people and to get them exposed to what I'm doing, right? A lot of you guys know that. A lot of you guys are listeners right now today because I made some direct contact with you, right? Either social media or in person, right? I figured, the best way to acquire a listenership or a base of people that will support you in something you do is to let them know who you are. A lot of comics don't do that. They're either not willing to, or they don't want to do that. Comics and podcasters, whatever. I'll seek you out. I'm like, hey, are you into podcasts? Are you into stand-up comedy? Look, I do both of those things. I would like you to check it out, right? Be very honest. Be very upright with people. Right? Let them know, hey, look, I'm pitching you right now. I want you to listen to my podcast. I want you to be somebody that supports my podcast. I want you to check it out. And if you enjoy it, keep listening to it. Will you do that for me? Yeah, definitely. Right? Be surprised at what you can get people to do if you're just open and honest and you just ask them. So that's part of it, right? So I guess if that explains it, I hope that answers your question. 44 minutes in. A couple more here. This is from David M. David M. When are we going to hear an in-depth account of your shooting? I feel the interview podcast was restrained and abridged. I'm going to assume that the one you're talking about was the episode that I had dedicated to it. And this was the episode from December 5th, 2018, where my good friend, fellow comedian that every one of you listening should absolutely know their name, and everybody on the planet should know his name, is Tom Simmons. He was in town when I was doing my album recording. He was the headline act for that show. And during that time, I recorded an episode where I interviewed him, talked about him, and then he did an episode where he interviewed me about a time very earlier in my life, back to the crack dealing days, when I was shot in a robbery. And if you're talking about that episode, David, I don't think I was restrained or it was an abridged version. I think I told you pretty much everything that happened and what led up to it, I think. I don't know. So if you've never heard that episode, if you want to know a little bit more about me and where I came from in the world, the title of that episode was "I Wanted to Be Black Until I Got Shot." I'll explain that in the episode. Okay. And that was on 12/5/2018. So basically last December. And the guest interviewer was Tom Simmons, and I was the guest on that one. I don't know what I left out, if anything. I mean, I guess if you have specific questions, we're friends. I know who you are. That's a person I know. He was actually worked at a place I worked. He was a manager of a place I got fired at. But that's another story. And but yeah, I don't know what else I left out. We should go do a lift session together and go do some deadlifts and I'll answer the rest of your questions for you. But check that episode out if you'd like some more history on my shooting incident. The incident when I got shot. I didn't just shoot. I got shot and I shot somebody. So just build that up, the suspense of that episode. I got shot 3 times and returned fire. I was the defender, not the aggressive offensive shooter. But I got shot 3 times. Fun story. Don't get shot. It sucks. Next one here is from Karen B. Karen B. Long time. This is why I included this one. Long time FFA listener since the 2011. Is that right? Oh, okay. Since 2011, the radio show. She's referring to the radio show I did briefly on AM 950 called "Pardon the Dissent." Pardon the Dissent. It was basically a radio show where it was on a progressive radio station. I'm not a progressive. I'm apolitical. I have liberal leanings mostly, but some conservative leanings as well too. Mostly about guns and shit. But it was a radio show called Pardon the Dissent where I basically talk shit about both sides of the political aisles and social issues. I'm sorry, I'm about to choke on my burp here. And talked about social issues and things like that from my perspective. And it was very short-lived, a year. And it was short-lived because, again, on a progressive radio station. And I may have called, during his presidency, called Barack Obama a drone-murdering piece of human garbage, which I still believe to this day. And I honestly there's not a president in my lifetime that I have respect for, but that's a whole other episode. Anyway, that was the show. And you can actually find, I think I've got a few old episodes somewhere. I know that a fan of the show, Sanchez, who I need to get back in contact with him. I hope he's still doing well. He was a listener in California. It was like we were local radio here in the Twin Cities, but it was live streamed via internet radio, whatever. And he used to listen all the way in either LA or San Diego. But he was a regular caller, super good dude, super awesome human being. And he like me have questions about the events of 9/11. And I did an episode on progressive radio here in the Twin Cities about 9/11 for an hour. And I think he made a edited version of that where he cut out all the commercials or whatever. And it's somewhere on YouTube now. Just search for Joey Vincent, Pardon the Dissent, 9/11. It will probably pop up somewhere in there. But you get to hear a lot of my predictions about 9/11 that eventually came true as far as the releasing of the redacted pages of the 9/11 Commission report and all that. So it's very interesting to see what I got right, and what my ideas were at that time and thoughts were at that time. But that was the radio show. And then I'm sorry, I just totally went on a rant here, but Karen asked, and obviously I'm also now listening to to the new version of Filter Free America. My question is, what are your top 10 podcasts? She wants to know what podcasts I listen to when I'm not recording podcasts. Top 10 is hard because I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do. Like we don't here at the house, we don't have cable, right? By choice. It's like, not that we didn't pay the bill or something like that. No, we just said, fuck it. We're not going to do it. Cable. We've been off cable for like 7 years. It's like crack. I'm going to do it. I haven't smoked crack in 7 years. I'm so clean. I haven't smoked cable in 7 years. And it was fucking fantastic. It really was. There's such there's a lot of time wasters out there. I still play video games. I still go on Facebook. I still do things like that, but cutting out fucking cable television. Dude, it was a fucking life changer. I've accomplished so much more without television, because I used to watch fucking garbage TV. I would still probably watch it if I had access to it. Like the people that go buy like storage unit shows, those fake fucking setup shows that aren't real in any kind of possible way. They fucking set it up like, okay, let's roll a Lamborghini in there. Let's roll like a fucking mummy and like 12 gold bars. And then we'll buy it for $6. And the fucking audience, dumb motherfuckers, slurping on sodas will think that's fucking amazing. Yeah. I was doing that. So yeah, but now, I think as far as entertainment that I put into me, which sounds kind of sexy, the majority of it is podcasts. There really is. I love podcasts. I love the medium of podcasts. I love learning how to do podcasting better by listening to better podcasters than I. And then I love the education that I get from a lot of the episodes that I listen, or a lot of the podcast titles that I listen to. So I'm going to give you a top 10, and I base this basically off what I'm listening to the most right now. Some of these, are the first one I'm going to tell you is obviously my favorite one. I don't think it's going to be much of a surprise. But these are the ones I'm listening to the most right now, but there's still many, many other good ones that are in my rotation that I listen to when I'm at the gym or wherever, or driving or, whatever. So, obviously number one on my list is, Joe Rogan Experience with comedian, and podcaster extraordinaire Joseph Rogan. Again, one of the first two podcasts I ever listened to. And, I guess it was like his podcast has been moderately life altering. I mean, he's, I'm sure most of your listeners, I get a lot of crossover listenership from him. Amazing topics. I've heard amazing conversations about comedy. When I left comedy for 2 years, part of the reason I came back was listening to an episode between him and Joey Diaz. That's what kind of gave me the encouragement to come back after taking a hiatus that I didn't know was going to end or not. And just him opening up my world to all kinds of interesting people who I may never, ever, ever have an opportunity to hear talk for an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours about some amazing and interesting topics. And say what you will. I know there's some people out there who question Rogan's politics. They question his connection to government agencies. All that stuff. Regardless, you're never going to in life, except maybe your mom, maybe your dog, right? You don't ever like anybody completely, right? And not everybody is going to be everything to every person, right? I love the Joe Rogan's podcast. I enjoy him as a comedian as well, too. Don't agree with everything that he says. And if I ever have time to talk to him, I would love to spend an hour with him off the record, asking him some very specific questions about some very specific topics. But again, still my favorite podcast to this date, and has been since I've been listening to podcasts. The rest, these aren't in order. Rogan's, of course, is the best one, but the rest of these are just all the ones I'm listening to that I really like. I like Bill Simmons, the Bill Simmons podcast. It's a lot about, if you're not familiar with Bill Simmons, he's a sports journalist, writer. And his podcast is fucking great. I enjoy who he is as a podcaster, his personality, and talks a lot of sports, and he has some great interviews and stuff too. Time Suck with Dan Cummings. Dan's a comedian. Very funny dude. Time Suck is like, I just love what he does, man. He does these deep dives into super interesting topics, and it's a great podcast. It is. I think I've learned a lot from listening to him, and I've only been listening to him for about a year now. Another one I like, number 4 on my list, is TED Radio Hour. All kinds of interesting topics that relate to humanity. If you know what TED Talks are, it's connected to that. Another one I like, Radio Lab. A lot of what I like about that one is kind of what I like about TED Talks, kind of the same vein of information. Another fairly new one that I'm really getting into now. I still haven't got through her whole log of episodes. It's Villains of History with comedian Kat. Oh God, I hope I say her name right. This is why I'm a horrible MC. She is, her last name is Avarado, Avarado. God, I'm a fucking idiot. Did I mention the GD? Kat Avarado. I think I'm saying that right. All right. Her podcast it's Villains of History. I think you can kind of figure it out. If you're a fucking douchebag in history, she's going to talk about you eventually. Right. If you haven't checked that podcast out, check it out. It's again, it's a deep dive into, specific topics, and she'll have a guest on and talk with them, and then talk about, some fucking dick in history. And it's super interesting. I'm really into, I like history. I like learning, and she does it very, very well. She's a great host to listen to. Like when I listen to a podcast, it's not just about what they say, it's how they say it. Right. Like some people I just can't listen to. I enjoy listening to her. And plus, she's a super funny comedian. If you don't know her as a comic, I was just watching some of her videos last night. Super funny lady. Super smart, super funny, and super hot. Super hot. So all of those things together makes for a fantastic podcast. Next one, Skeptic Tank with Ari Shafir. Skeptic Tank with Ari Shafir. I know about Ari through Joe Rogan. His podcast is interview based as well too. Very similar in style and format as what I do with this podcast. And he has very interesting guests. Some oftentimes comedians, but sometimes he has some fucking off the wall ones that you wouldn't expect either. Totally enjoy that podcast. Last 3 we got here. We got another comic that you should know. Right? If you're a fan of stand-up comedy and you don't know this person's name that I'm about to say, fucking shame on you. The person's name is Stuart Huff. Fucking brilliant comedian. Brilliant comedian who does not get the national recognition that I feel that he deserves. Right? Like he should be a household name. Stuart Huff's Obsessive Curiosities. Stuart Huff's Obsessive Curiosities. Okay. Now, number 1, before you listen to his podcast, go listen to my interview of him on this podcast. I think it was like the 3rd one. I'm pretty sure it was the 3rd or the 4th within the first 4, maybe 5 episodes of the Filter Free America podcast. If you go back in there, you will find my interview with Stuart Huff. And it was basically me talking to him about his stand-up comedy origin story, how he got into it and all that. And dude, he's got a fantastic story, and he's just a wonderful person to talk to. He's got just his demeanor, who he is as a human being. He's fucking brilliantly funny. Love talking to him. So go listen to that episode, learn about him. And then when you do that, you're going to learn about his podcast and what it's about, Obsessive Curiosities. And I'll just give you a little insight here. He's a collector. Some people call him like a junk person or a collector, not like a hoarder, kind of like a hoarder, but he hoards good shit, right? Things that he finds in like collectible shops and wherever the junk is at, he will go to. As he travels around the country telling jokes, brilliantly funny jokes. On his off hours, he'll go and search these fucking antique stores and junk stores and find these fucking treasures of history, right? Treasures of history, be it something that was a product or a memento or whatever, sometimes from dark areas of history, right? Like I think he has like one of the episodes was like Klan uniforms, right? And so the podcast he talks about this junk that he has. He has guests on there. One of the guests that he has is one of my favorite comedians as well, Tom Simmons, but he has a lot of other regular comics come on and talk. And then they talk about the history and then their impressions, be it emotionally or their reactions to the history surrounding these items that he's bought and he's saved and he's put in this museum of history junk, right? It's a fucking awesome podcast. Fucking awesome. Last two, the Higher Side Chats. The Higher Side. I love me a good, there's a lot of good conspiracy podcasts, and it was hard for me to pick one because I like that one. The Conspiracy Guys, I like that one. Tinfoil Hat, I like that one as well too. But I had to pick one. I didn't want to. And the Higher Side Chats has been the conspiracy podcast I've been listening to the longest, but it's really good. Last one on my list of 10 is Church of What's Happening Now with Joey Diaz. Again, interview-based, comedy-based podcast. Fucking love that one. All right. A couple more emails here before we kick over to the... a couple more interviews? A couple more emails before we kick over to the interview. And this one is from Flip P. Flip P. He wants to know the best, worst comics I've seen perform live. Best and worst comedians I've seen perform live. Okay. The first one's going to be an easy one to answer. Well, maybe not easy. It depends on how I look at it. The best comic I've ever seen perform live is my absolute favorite comedian. That's Dave Attell. I've seen him perform live multiple times. I've never got a chance to work with him yet. It's on my comedian wish list. I would love to open for him, or I don't know, hold his nuts while he takes a piss. I don't know, something, whatever. But yeah, he's my favorite that I've seen. If you're interested in my other two favorite comedians, Greg Giraldo, RIP Greg Giraldo, and Patrice O'Neill. Those two, and then Dave Attell are my comedy universe as far as what I'm a fan of. So he would be my favorite to see live. But I tell you what, just recently, last November, literally the night before I recorded my album, I went to Acme Comedy Company with Tom Simmons, and we saw Robert Kelly perform live. Robert Kelly, I've always liked. I can't remember if I featured for him in House of Comedy or I emceed for him. I know I worked with him once before. I don't know if he liked me or not, but regardless, I always thought he was funny. I'm a big fan of his stand-up for a while too. But that night that I saw him at Acme, dude, he was fucking on fire. And I mean, his first, I think 20 minutes was some fantastic crowd interaction stuff. And he did material as well too. And it was, dude, he was on fire. Now, that being said, Acme is one of the meccas in stand-up comedy. Acme Comedy Company is probably one of the best 5 comedy clubs on the planet. I'm not exaggerating. So, and it's because it's the perfect comedy environment. And if you can be an average comic there and fucking crush because just everything is in your favor. But that said, Robert Kelly's fucking a good stand-up comedy. He's good. He's got some dirty about him, but he does it good. It's not hacky. It's fucking nice. He's good fucking East Coast comic. I dig the shit out of him. And that night he was fucking on fire. And he's one of the contributors. When I did my CD, when I recorded my album I just released in February, I recorded the next day after seeing that show. I feel like I took some energy from him, and it helped me do as well as I did on my album. So I'm appreciative of that. So that might be the best individual performance that I've seen. I've also I've opened for Anthony Jeselnik before, and his crowd is fucking awesome, and his crowd digs my material. And I've only opened for him one time. It was like a regular thing. And it was amazing. Like his crowd, this is like when he was really starting to blow up and shit too. And that crowd was fucking fantastic. And he, of course, crushed as well too. Yeah, so that answers that question. Yeah, okay. Okay, we got one last. Oh, yeah, this is what we're going to end on. This is the last one right here. Last one. This one came from Guy M. Guy M. I love the name Guy. I don't know why. I wouldn't want the name Guy, but I like the name Guy. Just because it's like, hey, it's that fucking guy over there. Fucking Guy. I don't know. I like Guy. Guy's a good guy. I know Guy from the Facebooks. He's a good dude. This is why I ended on this question. This is how you know the hardcore Filter Free America listeners versus the rest of you guys who I love dearly as well too. But this guy knows me. His question is, like I'm some kind of expert on this. Will anal ever become an Olympic sport? Will anal ever become an Olympic sport? Good question, Guy M. I don't know, right? I on first blush, I would say no. I would say that the Olympic Committee is never going to say, you know what we're missing? We're missing anal. I mean, yeah, we got the basketball and the swimming and that ski jump shit. We need some fucking anal though. I don't think that's going to happen. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. There could be, I don't know, a change in the history or the paradigm of the world where anal becomes a organized sporting event. I have questions. How do you judge anal? Did you when you asked me this question, did you have a plan? Right? Were you like, what's the guy that invented basketball? And he's like, just throw the ball in the fucking peach basket. Meh, basketball. Do you have an idea in your mind? That would have been helpful. Is you giving me some specific, how is it judged, right? Is it like greatest depth? Like how deep can you go? Right? Do you performing anal for America, Leonard Jackson from Mississippi, and he just sticks his dick in there, and then they put like a tape measure to see how deep is that. Leonard Jackson, 7 feet. Holy shit, the guy went deep. Or maybe is it endurance? Is it anal performed as an endurance sport? As an endurance sport? Like a marathon of anal? Don't give up. Keep pumping. Or maybe it's what the fuck is that? A sport in the Winter Olympics? The biathlon. The biathlon. Would anal be like the biathlon? Is it an event where you take a dick in the ass for long enough to get your heart rate up? And then when your hearts get beating really fast, do you fucking pull the dick out real quick and you grab a rifle and shoot a target? Is that what it is? So my guess is no. Anal will never be in the Olympics. If I'm wrong, though, and it does become an Olympic event, they're going to need a brown ring to add to the to the Olympic rings. Fucking fantastic question. I love you as a human being. Thank you for that. All right, let's kick off the again, not an interview. This is a conversation. Comedian Robert Baril, who I love as a human being. I love him, the human. I love his hair. He's got fantastic hair. Again, I think I mentioned in the beginning, have a little bit of a long-term connection with him as far as comedy and also radio. He had a radio show on AM 950 as well too. And we've done podcasts together. He was in early episodes. He was a regular co-host of when I was doing kind of a different format of the Filter Free America podcast, back before radio. Excuse me. He was on there as a very regular. Does that make sense? Excuse me. Yeah, I don't edit out burps. I just burp off to the side, and you guys listen to it. That's why the show's so good. Yeah. So he's the guest, and I love the human being to death. A very funny comedian as well too. If you want to know him, go to his Facebook. He wanted me to go to. I think he's in Mist building a website. But it's Robert, regular spelling, Baril, Baril, Robert Baril, right? Find him on the Facebook. He has an album out under the Stand Up Records record label. It's called Sex and Politics. Sex and Politics, not Sex in Politics, because that would be a different show. But Sex and Politics, Robert Baril, and you can find that. I think you go to Stand Up Records, you can order it if you want to, go old school, get a hard copy. But if you do like most everybody else on the planet is doing, you can get it on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, all the places where you can stream. Doozer, is that a thing? I know my album's on a thing called Doozer or Dozer, some shit. I don't know, but look up Robert Baril, Sex and Politics. So this episode again is a conversation, and I guess you need to know kind of where he is politically. If you're a regular listener, fuck them all. Is that a party? The fuck them all party? What are you voting this year? Fuck them all. Fuck them. That's my political party. But I asked him, I was like, how do you want me to describe you? Like you're liberalish, but you've got some smarts and some common sense too. And he said, describe me as a pragmatic. It's a fancy word for realistic. Pragmatic. I think so. I've got a GED. I'm guessing he's a pragmatic democratic socialist. Ooh, socialist, right? That's a fucking trigger word right there. Most triggers that are triggered by socialists are AK triggers. But I digress. Pragmatic democratic socialist. That's his political identity. All right. Again, I love the guy to death, and we match up on a lot of issues, as you will hear in this conversation that we have. But we've gone tit for tat on a couple things as well too. But in this interview, or not interview, but this conversation, it was recorded on July 3rd. This was fresh off the little scuffle in Portland between Antifa, anti-fascists, Antifa, how the fuck it is, Antifa, and a bunch of right-leaning Husker-doos, and they had a little squabble. Some people got bloody and shit. So this is right after that happened. So we talk about Antifa and our views and ideas and fucking jokes about that. We get into a little bit of a discussion about the condition of politics. It's I don't want to scare anybody off. Like, oh fuck, we hear two fucking douchebag comics talk about politics again. No, we don't really talk about it as like, we're not shoveling shit in your direction. Like, hey, you should do this or you should do that. No, we just talk about the condition of it and how we got there and how we get out of it. And again, make some jokes. And then the end of what's left, again, part of this conversation got cut off. The last part of it, though, is I share a story that of my in-person experience with a Antifa group here in the Twin Cities at a protest a few years back involving Minneapolis Police Department. And again, I don't need to explain to you more than that. You'll hear the conversation. So that's it. So that's the whole episode. You've already heard most part of it, and then now you're going to hear another 48 minutes of me japping. Not japping as racist. I mean japping jaws. Is that right? Is that a right word? I hope I didn't say anything racist there. Jabbing. That's the word. Sorry, it's late. With comedian Robert Baril. And you're going to enjoy that now, right here on the Filter Free America podcast. Let's go. All right. So you're caught up on the news. You know what goes on in the world more than most people do. What are your initial impressions of Antifa, anti-fascism, just in general, and then what's going on or what went on back at the end of last month at the little Portland scuffle?
Well, I mean, there's different branches of it, right? Like we talked about that a little bit. There's like offshoots and stuff.
I don't know how organized they are. I don't.
Yeah, It doesn't seem.
And that's not me trying to take a shot at them specifically, because some of these other right-wing groups that they're not really big on spelling organization, much less being organized. So I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the terrorist groups, like Al Qaeda, where it's like the offshoots, and then or like band. It seems like it's bands. You know, you
Right.
have your original group, and then they go off and they start their own thing.
And how organized can anarchists be, really? I mean, it's against their code to be
Yeah,
organized and in control.
Absolutely, yeah, they're inherently against order.
Right. Do you feel that they're justified?
I mean, personally, I'm anti-violence in pretty much every circumstance except for self-defense, reasonable self-defense. And I mean, we both know that I'm a veteran of many street fights. Managed to.
I'm surprised you made it here with it.
I know. Well,
without
the
killing
problem
somebody
is
on my block.
They try to they go for the head, and I just have so much product in my hair that it's served as an adequate. It's almost like a helmet.
Give Robert a helmet. No, he's good.
Yeah.
He's
He's good.
He's got one.
Yep. In principle, like yeah, I'm against fascism,
Right.
You know, but I mean, it certainly seems like, I don't know, like I just don't see how it helps the cause if you're the one doing the provoking of the. And I'm not saying it's the case here, but like it certainly doesn't help if guys are just they're marching. They're doing their, and they're not, I mean, they're Nazis, like, they're disgusting beliefs. But at the same time, I also feel like.
Well, they claim not to be Nazis, okay?
Okay.
But if you go to any of these events, and you see a lot of Nazi-looking motherfuckers in there who have all the attributes of a good Nazi.
Yeah. If you're speaking Klingon, and then you're like, hey, what are those Klingons? And you're like, whoa, no, we're not Klingons. Like, well, you're speaking the language. I feel like,
and that's it. And I know, like, I've met with and had conversations with people who are conservative and who support some of the stuff the Proud Boys are about and everything like that. And they will swear
at that point.
What's that?
Proud, should you be a man? Should you be proud men? Why are they boys?
Right?
Don't you want people to take you seriously?
I never looked. Do they spell it with an S or a Z like Boys in the Hood? Because then that would be ironic.
I feel like they should switch it to the Z if it isn't already. But that just sounds like they're happy they won a 4th grade spelling tournament. Like,
right.
the Proud Boys. Like, why? As opposed to what? Shame boys? Like, why? Be a man.
One day you'll be a proud man.
Turning Proud Boys into proud men. Well, then they need dates, so I don't know how that would work. Maybe that's why they're boys still. They haven't had sex. That could be.
That's true.
The incel? Isn't that the...
What does that even mean?
Involuntarily celibate.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm not... Who claims that? Who's the...
Oh, I don't. I'm so... It
took me 6 years to understand what cis meant, so I had to figure
exactly. They're vengeful men who feel like they're entitled to sex, and when they don't get it, then they shoot up a church. Like, I don't know. It's
with guns or
thing.
with masturbation?
I would assume. Well, probably with guns at some point. They might open with masturbation.
It's either before or after the shooting that triggers that. Here I'm torn because here's the deal with Antifa, and I think everybody should be against fascism.
Yeah,
and I think that if you ask the group of the Proud Boys and the whatever,
are there Proud Girls?
I don't know.
I mean,
is that how it works?
Well, I would imagine there are women that are proud. You know, that's got to be a thing. The women's soccer team, they're kicking ass. Yeah. Like, they got to be proud girls, but they don't call themselves proud girls.
The Proud Women.
Are there a group? Well, yeah, that's a good point, too.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good point. I don't know. I would assume some of them have sex because they have to, reproduce them.
Probably, yeah.
and I'm already, I know that, half the people who listen to the show are already cringing, like, oh, they're just going to, talk about us the whole time. But look, I would assume most of them are opposed to fascism too. But here's the deal with the Antifa movement. My point of view, I'm strongly self-defense, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Mm-hmm. I hope that people who are worried or concerned about a possible group of people hurting them or attacking them or something would proactively train, understand self-defense, invest in firearms and proper training, and for the off chance that they would ever have to defend themselves. I think everybody should do that. That's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that. And if some shit ever cracked off, if I have no problem with them fighting or attacking or hurting somebody who's actively in the process of at that very moment, and not just in words and thought, hurting them back, you know what I'm saying? Or proactively in that case. But when it's just a group of people, regardless of how fucking dumb the idea may be,
yeah,
and that's just me generalizing right side of the room. How do you get to the point of like, no, we got to do this ahead of time? And this is that whole punching Nazi thing and punching.
Well, I don't even know if it's ideological at that point. I feel like it's like gang mentality, a lot of testosterone, like, because none of these guys probably, well, maybe the Proud Boys, I don't know. They seem like they're in better shape based on the pictures that I saw. But yeah, that's true. They shouldn't be proud. Some of them, like maybe join a gym first, then you can be.
They
proud.
have slight tactical advantage. I think most of them are probably more prepared for conflict.
Yeah,
and things like that. But the other one, I saw some really limp-wristed punches being thrown by Antifa members. That was pretty embarrassing. That, and unless their tactic was to make them laugh themselves to death with some of the.
Not a bad tactic.
It's worked for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's how I do it. I the sissiest slap I can muster, and then they wet themselves laughing,
right?
And that allows me to get away. I think some of them, just want to fight. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think it matters.
I think both sides do.
I think both sides. I think it isn't even an ideology. It's like Jets and Sharks kind of a thing. Like, because didn't one of the things I read, the Proud Boys, or one of them had a name for this thing. It was like the Rumble 2 or the. It was basically alluding to the last time they fought, like a year ago, when some Antifa guys. It's like the Warriors, basically, except it's political now. So we treat them like, oh, they're adults and they're philosophers. And it's like, well, no, they're just.
I agree. I think that it's a kind of where the tribalism of politics has devolved to this like more animalistic type tactics now, instead of just ideas going back and forth and name calling. And now we're getting to the point now, and this is where it scares me, because everything looks like it's trending to. Is that the podcast over there going on?
Is there another podcast taping in this?
Alexa, stop. That was weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I triggered it with my voice.
You might have.
Triggered my voice. That's weird because I said the name of the podcast and it came on. On Alexa over there.
I was like, is he also talking to me from around the corner? How many Joeys are there? Is this?
That's terrifying.
You actually died in 2006. There's just like a closet and the next one emerges.
Oh, that's the CIA. They're turning on the Alexa just to.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. Yep.
But this is what terrifies is it really feels like it's trending more towards more and more this violent conflict. And yes, whether people of the, I don't even know what to call the right group there. It was a mix of conservative leaning ideas in that parade. But the guy, who's the quote unquote finger quotes on podcasts, John Bloom, who was the older looking dude, gray haired dude who has the famous picture now of him bloody in the face and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But there's pictures of him carrying one of those collapsible police batons prior to the attack, right?
Yeah.
Now, I say that saying if I was in that area and I knew counter protesters were going to be there, I would probably arm myself in a way. But he was not like he wasn't prepared and not like he didn't expect violence. You're going there
with a weapon expecting a fight to happen and then you get beat up.
Yeah.
And then, oh, the other side, they're mean. Like, no, they knew exactly what this was going in.
Right. So to me, it's like there's no good guy here and there's no bad guy here.
No,
other than the ideas that I don't agree with versus the ideas that I do agree with.
Yeah,
but I think that we should be able to separate. Like you can't just be you can't be all in on just one group. You might agree with something here, might disagree with something here, but still sees both sides as being wrong. Though I catch a lot of shit for that, as trying to be. Everybody accuses me of being some kind of weird centrist or something that No, I just don't fucking trust either one. It's not that I think that the middle ground is the right ground. Trust me, the majority of my views would probably have a left lean to them. Mm-hmm. But I can't side with and I can't defend violence for violence sake, or
it does.
I can't do
although
that.
To be fair, though, I also feel like there is a difference between violent, like if the only people being hurt are the ones participating in these dumb street fights, then I'm a little bit more okay with like that Doug Stanhope bit about war. Right. Like the guys that want to go kill and they die. I'm okay with that.
Well, that's a really good point.
Like if the right side aren't just like going into some coffee shop, finding a minority and beating the shit out of them, and the left isn't going to go find some guy with a shaved head and they're like, do you have cancer? No. And then they just beat the shit out of him. Then I'm opposed to that.
Well, what if you're a hateful racist and you have cancer? And it's like camouflage.
Oh man, then it's almost. Do we? I don't know. I feel like that's.
But you have nothing to live for.
Yeah,
at this stage, at least. Sir.
How? What makes you superior? You're clearly dying.
Your body's killing yourself. Your own genes that you're so proud of.
Your white blood cells aren't superior. Your great white blood cells. Where are they when you need them? Anyway, as I'm roasting this imaginary cancer-ridden supremacist.
Right.
No, I think if like then it's almost all right. Fine, you participate in it. You brought the weapons. You fought, and then those are the only victims. Okay, like
so let's play this out. So we'd start doing that. We start opening up these battle domes state by state where these two groups.
I'm surprised it's not on TV right now.
Well,
I feel like that's the next evolution.
ESPN2 really needs to make a comeback, so that might be the thing for them.
Street fight, Antifa versus
all those empty
Proud
arena
Boys.
football stadiums. We'll just throw this in there.
This is like street XFL.
All right, but what happens at the end of that? Right, nothing gets solved. Right?
No, nothing gets solved.
People get more angry. People die. People get hurt. And it's still the same conflict is there, and it's the ideas, and it's the problem. I really don't know if there's a solution between the two that's a middle ground that's even close to acceptable to either side at this point.
Maybe if you could like channel that into like some sort of athletic competition that isn't street fighting,
right?
Like the Masters. It's maybe not golf.
Masters might be a wrong choice of words when
Masters
talking.
Is street. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, "That's not." But maybe something like a basketball.
They also can't
game.
play at the Cotton Bowl, so both
of
those things would be out.
But maybe some sort of you get a team together like what was that Adam Sandler remake, The Longest Yard? You put a football team together, you train for a month, you play. Whoever wins, they get to be right for the year. Like no one cares, no one's taking it seriously.
Right?
It's not like the people that are against fascism or something can be for fascism if like Antifa gets its ass kicked one day.
Well, both sides are, like I said, will claim to be anti-fascist, but both sides want to use fascism to prove how un-fascist they are. And that's the circle of fascism here.
I mean, it's fascism, the noun, as opposed to fascism, the verb.
Right.
Like you're against the noun, but the way you're conducting yourself sometimes is through means that and their excuse, self-defense, if you're being attacked, absolutely.
Right.
But and that's the danger in the self-defense thing. That's like the George W. Bush preemptive war. Like, you're not a peacemaker. You are the one that started this shit.
Right. But they try to justify it as, and this is where it gets confusing to me too, because my left-leaningness sides with the idea that these people are actively, talking about the right, are actively protesting and wanting less rights for homosexual people, less rights for minorities. We're going to talk about immigration, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of them are pro-deportation as well as laws. Mm-hmm. So, while I have conflicting views within those views, I'm going to side with nobody getting fucking beat up, nobody getting kicked out who's not living in this country.
Yeah.
And if you want to stick your penis in any kind of hole, fucking go for it. I don't give a fuck. Right?
Have fun. Well, I mean, consensually. Let's not like obviously make sure everyone's on board for the thing you're doing.
Right. We'll make sure.
But assuming everyone's
it's a
an adult and
receptive
consenting.
hole.
Exactly.
Receptive holes. So that's what. So I guess I kind of understand that. It's like, because if you do, like, if you let a cut on your arm go untreated,
Yeah.
it'll get worse and infection will set in and it will fester. If you allow bad negative thoughts to be put out in young minds, they will latch onto that and grow numbers, and that idea will grow. But am I wrong to think, and maybe I'm giving humanity too much credit, am I wrong to think that if you can't defend your ideas with your ideas against their bad ideas with just ideas, with just conversation, then how good can your ideas be? Is that an oversimplification? And that's not an original thought of mine by any means.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, exactly. Like and that gets to the whole point of how they've been shutting down speakers. I guess the speakers on the far right coming to Harvard and stuff.
Right, exactly. That's a great comparison.
Okay, they could be saying the most unfounded, hateful, intolerant bullshit that they're spewing, but we still have freedom of speech in this country.
Right.
So you can disagree. And how insecure are you in your opinions that you think someone doing this, giving them a platform? I know the left has really turned on Bill Maher lately, but I do like the fact that he will give Steve Bannon. He'll have an interview with Steve Bannon. He had the Milo guy on. He made an ass of himself, and where is he now? Like, you just need to combat them on an intellectual level, prepare for them. And, it's a democracy. Like, once you start using fascist means, shutting them down, using violence, then that only fuels their claims of, we are victims. Because they like to, claim that they're the victims too, despite all the powerful white men in this country that aren't going anywhere.
Well, we're all victims in this country. It's kind of, you get that issued at birth. You get like a Social Security number, you get your umbilical cord cut, and you get a victimization issued you.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But I mean, as opposed to like people that are genuinely discriminated against.
Right.
But you have, well, fortunately, and again, the one where, who is it, Spencer getting hit?
Spencer.
He was the Nazi guy that got
You got to be more
punched.
specific.
Oh, yeah.
there's a few of those.
Richard Spencer?
Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Dick Spencer.
Yeah. Like, I saw that, and I laughed right away. And then it's almost like, but this is a person getting hit. Like, okay, he's a Nazi. Or not a Nazi, but,
Well, there's
whatever.
some videos of actual, there's this white dude getting punched by a black dude, and he's in his leather coat, and he's got the actual fucking old school Nazi band on his arm. And and he's throwing up these hands of look, no. And of course, if it was a bunch of Nazis behind him, he probably wouldn't be throwing up his hands.
Yeah.
So, but whatever. And the guy punches him. And I'm like you. I'm like, immediately, I feel kind of good.
It does kind of. I mean, that's all
good.
Inglourious Bastards is people killing Nazis for two. And you're like, that's right.
So I get that argument of like, if you're going to claim, and I wonder if these people who wear the wristbands or who claim Nazis, how much of that is kind of what you said. It's just these lost minds who are looking for some kind of group to cling to, which I think a lot of hate and racism can be attributed to.
Absolutely.
Same thing with gangs and everything else. A lot of that is not because you fucking believe it, but you just don't want to be alone. And wherever in the world that you find some kind of group that will bring you in feels good.
Not only that, but then according to that group, you're the best.
Right. Yeah, that's a hell of a selling point.
Everyone else is wrong. You're right. Be with us. You're the chosen Neo. Like you're neo-Nazi. That's where that comes from. Neo, the
Pretty
Matrix.
sure he was a Nazi too. It was. Just I don't know. I'm so, and I've been like this. This is not new information, especially not to this audience. I'm so jaded and so like, dude, we're not gonna get anywhere. We're not. This is not gonna get right. This is not gonna get. It's gonna get worse. There's gonna be more violence. There's gonna be more death. The guy running over people in cars at the protest.
What's really interesting is how. So what is the solution then? Because if you're talking politics, you would want someone who would be moderate then, ideally. right? But now there's no way a moderate with how polarized we are could possibly
The last election,
get elected.
The last election was the total opposite of moderates.
Yeah.
It was one extreme and then another extreme. You know,
'Cause,
either
you know, it
at
remind-
least to the perception of the two people who were on the opposing sides, she's an extreme, and then
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course Trump's an extreme. And
But you look at someone like Bill Clinton, we'll say, who, for all intent, he's a moderate Democrat. And
well, ask people in Bosnia that, but
well, yeah. I mean, like domestically, like you know, that foreign policy wise,
okay.
you know,
Which to me is my argument against every president. Is like, yeah,
Oh, sure.
they'll say whatever here domestically because domestically is the point of control, but overseas it's all the same playbook. You know.
but I feel like he was the last, I mean, yeah, like of that like Reaganish breed where you would see some people from the other party, even actually maybe not even Clinton, maybe Reagan, but like a president
Reagan was
where
what?
the other party, well, they were like Reagan Democrats.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's the reason he got elected.
Yeah.
He had so many Democrats
Yeah.
that came over.
And I feel like Clinton, with the exception of like Gingrich, the Take America Back stuff, but like for the most part, I think you just like average Republican voter didn't like fear him or anything. There weren't any conspiracies about him. Even during the scandal, he still had pretty high approval ratings. And I mean, there was some Timothy McVeigh stuff, but for the most part, it was just like, oh yeah, it was a president.
Right.
You know, and then you had Bush, who the left hated. You had Obama, who the right hated. And now you have Trump, who the left hates. And, you know, who's purposely sowing this division. So, you know, you'd want somebody that can kind of, ideally, that both sides could respect and agree to respect.
Right.
I just don't see that happening.
No,
either.
you're right. I think it turned with Clinton because I think, and this is again,
Because that was the right going. You know what? Fuck you. You're not our side. We're going to destroy you.
right.
Just all-out warfare, because he was a moderate. He repealed Glass-Steagall, signed the crime bill. I mean, he was basically Republican, except he was for abortion and I guess if you like giving schools money, and there were like some things where like, okay, fine, you're sort of a Democrat,
Right.
But really, that was how he was even able to get elected at that point.
Blowjobs is that a democratical?
It's not a
Democrat-
conservative
You
thing.
don't
Well,
think?
from a woman.
Yeah.
From a woman, that's definitely a liberal thing, I feel
That was
like.
the middle ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think if I, you know, again, and we and you've had these conversations before, and all the times we've talked about this stuff is,
Yeah.
I have to suspend disbelief when I talk about politics because I don't believe that elections are controlled by voters. So that being said, it feels like there was a drastic change with Clinton where it became not about, maybe I wasn't old enough to you know, interpret it during Reagan. I look back at it, some of it, and like you said, there was people who were left leaning or Democrats supported him, right? Because
Yeah.
they liked who he was or who he presented himself to be.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. And but after Clinton, it's just become this fucking shit show now. And it's amping up. Every fucking president, it gets a little more and a little more of, we don't give a fuck about intellectual honesty. We don't give a fuck about fixing anything. It's just about the fucking win. It's all about winning. And it's all about it's got to be conservative. It's got to be this, and it's extremes of everything. Every idea is an extreme now.
Before getting reelected in, I think it was like 96, Clinton signed welfare reform. Like he basically, how are you even a Democrat at that point? Like you're cutting welfare. You're like sold to soul of the Democratic
in
Party.
the 3-strike system, which is
sold like that's not the FDR party. That is Republican light.
Right.
And even then, Republicans were going after him. I don't know why. Like he's giving you everything you want. He's because he just wants to get elected. He wants to be president. He'll cut whatever deal he has to cut to. No real strong principles
right.
on a lot of things, and yet they were still trying to get trying to nail his ass to the wall.
Well, I look at that as it's just where it's a reflection of the population. There was still even on the left side, there was still
But he was still a popular president. When
Yeah.
they went to impeach him, most Americans were
But
like,
I
"You got a
don't-
blowjob."
I
Like,
don't
know,
think the left and right are the extremes that they are now. I think there's a decline of level-headedness in a lot of areas. You know what I'm saying? As far as politics, like
it doesn't get any play.
like Trump back in the Reagan years, he would be a fucking madman to the right.
Yeah.
He would be a fucking embarrassment.
They had to get the win.
But we as a population are dumbed down. and I'm generalizing, but we're dumbed down, and maybe it's a product of the internet age, and maybe it's a bunch of shit altogether, come together. Maybe it's fucking pollution in the air is dumbing us down. Who the fuck knows? But it doesn't take as much now to get somebody to support you. You just got to be this extreme, right? And I'm going to say that like Bernie's an extreme. He's a very well presented
policy wise, or what do you mean extreme?
I'm talking about his policy wise extreme as far relative to where America has been the last 50 years or more so, actually. I mean, he's a democratic socialist, so
sure,
and it's his ideas. Back during the Reagan years, he would be a fucking communist. Yeah. Both sides would call that out. That would be a huge extreme. So I'm saying if you put Trump back there too, they would still like, this is not a fucking conservative. This is a fucking psycho. This is a fucking shit show. So we're to blame, if anything. I think we've allowed it, and I think politics. If I'm going to give politics a credibility of being real, they're responding to what works, right?
Yeah, give the people what they want.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Sanders truly believes everything he says. I believe that he does, but there's a certain group of people who respond to that wouldn't respond to that 50 years ago.
Yeah, no, I certainly think he believes what he's saying. He's, as far as integrity goes, I think he has more than most of the people on any stage he's debating against or running against, whether or not you agree with him.
Well, look at the rest of the what's her name, the former cop, I forget her name,
Kamala.
Yeah
She's
a very Clinton-esque to me, as far as she has very conservative ideals about a lot of things, and her history as far as being a prosecutor and everything, which is ugly. That's pretty extreme there too.
I mean, at some point it's going to come to light. I mean, I've read stuff, but you almost have to go to like Intercept or some other news source, because not any major news is covering like her background yet. I mean, I guess she has to be the front runner before she can get like the Joe Biden under the microscope now, because I think she's shot up now. It's like her, Warren, and Biden at the top.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely shades of that. I mean, she definitely.
But they all respond to a group. I mean, it's all an extreme. Mm-hmm. And everybody's got their kind of their flavor and everything, and it's not going to fix anything. There's going to be a sizable, just like it was this last election, just like it was during Obama years. There's going to be a side that's going to reject everything of the person who gets elected that they didn't want. And it's not going to be about, there's no reaching across the aisles. And this has been exposed on both sides time and time again, that, when these congressmen and these senators, when they go into work, it's not about fixing shit. Yeah. It's about raising money and about preventing the other side from winning and gaining. That's it. It's not about fixing anything. I
mean,
if you have to give up ground to a opposing party, you failed.
Well, that's Joe Biden got torn, and I'm not, I have my own problems with Biden. But when Kamala came after him for the busing thing, and it's like, okay, he's been in the Senate forever. All right. And I disagree with him on that. But at the same time, okay, that's one thing. Like and then the crime bill too, the 94 crime bill. I was listening to Bernie Sanders on NPR or something, and they asked him why he voted for the crime bill, for the sentencing. He's like, well, there was an assault weapons ban on there, which I promised my constituents I'd vote for. The Violence Against Women Act was part of that too. And so, it's legislating is really messy stuff. And sometimes, you have to sign off on a bunch of heinous stuff to get the 4 really good things you want passed through. And you just bite the bullet and go with it. And that's kind of how shit gets done.
I would argue that, as not saying it's not directing this to you, I would say that that's a cop out, and it's just more evidence of a failed system. That if we're going to accept that, then we're never going to get anywhere. If we're always going to accept, well, I did it because of A, B, and C, but if you get 6 or 7 other things that are way worse in the process, where have we advanced? We haven't advanced just because you got one little part thing done.
But then what's the alternative? Is not getting anything done?
Well, you're asking
status quo
as far as the alternative. Why burn it down and rebuild it?
But I don't know. Well, but I mean, literally burn it down? Like, what are you, starting from scratch? Do you not think the same thing will happen?
I don't know. And that's why I say, for so long I wanted to point to the government as being the failure, and and
But the government's people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting to. Is like, but the more I look at it, the more it's like, dude, this is all on us. This is all on us. This is, we kept, pushing the fucking field goal back, and as long as we get this here, and then 4 years pass, 8 years pass, it's the same fucking problem again. But don't worry, we get this guy elected, or we get this lady elected, everything's gonna be fine, and then it's not,
Yeah.
Obama being a perfect example for the left, and then this guy now, I mean, it's not getting better, it's not improving.
And I think, and especially with Trump too being so outrageous, that like I think he's also conditioned so many people into not really taking him seriously. You get your tax cut, he'll deport the Mexicans, like you don't really. So when you see these stories about like the kids in the border camps, and what's happening to the environment and all this shit, and then but I think people are like, well, whatever.
Right. We've been desensitized to being humanitarians, like to giving a fuck about the population, to giving, and it goes back to what I'm saying about it's all about the win.
But they're pro-life.
Well, but I have to argue with you. It's both sides. It's the things, and because me and you had these debates when Obama was in office.
Yeah.
The things that I was complaining about back then, to the most part, to the greater collection of the left, went ignored.
No, yeah, we've talked about this because I had a lot of problems with the drone stuff. With I think we talked about the border policies too there, and I mean the left gave him. I think Ilhan Omar called Obama a pretty face that got away with murder or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, I mean she's not wrong. He got quite a few passes to get away with some shady shit that they're calling out Trump for.
And that to me is the real problem. And if you don't want to be an extremist like me, like, hey, we just got to tear this down and figure out a new system and start over, then you got to first start with yourself. And that's these two parties got to. I made a post about this the other day. It's like, dude, if you can't hold your party to the standard that you're trying to impose on somebody else, it's never going to fucking work, right?
Yeah.
If you can't, I think to me, I would respect and maybe pick a side in this if they said, wait a minute, no. Yeah, this guy's a horrible piece of shit, but we got to fix this shit here first, right? And take every time one of your representatives or your president or whoever else that's in your party, when they do that shit, you got to fucking, that's going to be priority number one, not fucking worrying about who gets lit. Oh, hey, if we lose the White House, so be it. But at least we leave the White House knowing that we held our person to the standard that we want. And you can't wait till there's a fucking, orange man in the fucking office to start complaining about this shit. It sets it up and it gives permission for the next group. Back to Antifa, right? We've left along. So
yeah.
What are they creating for the next Democrat president? With this kind of attitude of this is how you deal with people who oppose ideas. When it flips, it's going to be the same. What excuse do they have now at that point? How are you going to complain when you're president or whoever you want is in office, and the guys or gals who are proud or whatever start fucking attacking you for your ideas?
Yeah,
and that's the clusterfuck that this creates. And just like you, it's like that solution, that violence. It's like you're going to get to fight it out. What's going to happen is people are going to die and people are going to go to jail.
Yeah,
and then the people in power are still going to be in power, and it's going to keep on going and keep on going. This is never going to be a solution.
It's the constant media scorecard too. Like it's a terrible thing making politics 24/7. It shouldn't be 20. It's insane. Like because then it's like you're saying it's getting a W, it's getting a win, and Trump was the genius at realizing that you can be on the wrong side of the news, but if you're all they're talking about, that's still a win. You're still controlling. They're talking about what you want them to talk about.
I think what you said was a really great point about that is people just are to the point, and it's even the left too, to a degree, that it's just, okay, this is who he is. We're just going to have to accept it now. When people talk about being desensitized to school shootings, right? It's kind of the same thing. It's like, this is who he is, right?
It's because I think it's just easier. We've been conditioned as a society now to accept. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest thing for us to do is just accept.
Is it accepting, or is it what I'm saying as far as well, yeah, it's wrong, but it's not left side wrong or it's not right side wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be. It's the well, it is what it is. It's the lesser of two evils. The shit that people say to me all the time. Well, yeah, they are both bad, but the right turd definitely smells way worse than the left turd. You know, it's like but that's the wrong way. All it does is just insulate the problem because you're not cleaning your own house, and that goes for both sides equally across the board. You can't complain about the other side when the same shit's happening on your side. You know, it's the same. I'm trying to think of a good example. War is always a good example. When was the last time we've not been in war? I can't remember. What president did we not have some kind of conflict going, or we weren't aiding some group doing some kind of proxy battle for us?
That's a good point. Maybe Benjamin Harrison. I don't know.
He was one of the Beatles, right?
Yeah. I think polio. I think we were maybe at war with polio at that point.
Did we win that war?
No, not when Harrison was president.
True. Fair enough. Here's my my Antifa experience, and this is to address the my dogs are over here fighing. Bentley Davis.
Is that fighting?
Well, they're loving.
I was about to say, yeah.
This is the opposite of what happened in Portland.
Yeah.
Really, it's a little bit of biting and love and affection.
See, if they would just have sex on the street, you know,
that would be number one. That would be disgusting.
Bring people together.
That would be the worst porn ever.
Oh, I'm not saying it'd be pleasant.
We'd all need black masks at that point just to cover up the eyes. This is me addressing, and again, this is one single solitary example.
The fact that the dogs are it is so hard to take what you're saying seriously with that in the background.
It's too cute for this conversation.
I know, right?
This is a single example to share, and again, can't be the deciding thing. But when people say that Antifa only is attacking in self-defense of people who are out to hurt them and out to do something wrong to people that they love and they care about, that's absolutely not true. In my experience, 4th Precinct protest, you remember that, right? Here is
that the Jamar Clark one?
The Jamar Clark one, here in North Minneapolis. Jamar Clark was shot by Minneapolis Police Department. It's still which they do. It's a thing.
Did not stop with that one.
Did not, no. And the cops involved, they have been cleared, of course. But there was a substantial protest. Excuse me. Anybody that lives here knows that a Black Lives Matter mostly protest happened at the 4th Precinct, the precinct that Jamar Clark was shot. He was literally shot 2 blocks down the street from the police department. They basically built an encampment at the 4th Precinct. They literally went into the entranceway of the precinct and chained themselves to doors, and it shut it down. It was, regardless of what side you're on, you've got to admit that it was impressive, the amount of dedication, and
especially considering how so many people are just like, well, that's the way things are. That you have people that, I mean, it's a shame that it takes something as tragic as that to
right. And to not debate because it still smells fishy to me, the whole shooting thing, but who knows? But anyway, part of that protest was they took over that whole street right there. I can't remember what that street is. It runs in front of the 4th Precinct. They took that whole thing over, and it was about 2 weeks worth of protesting, 24 hours a day in front of that thing. And I went down there. I was working at the time. I was working at a hotel, and as I get off work, I would go down there. Kind of not really taking a side, though. I clearly anybody listening to the show knows my side about far as police issues.
Very pro cop, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely. I'm all
terminally pro cop.
I shine badges on my off hours. How's that, sir? I like that one. Your number's still 911? Yeah, okay. But I was going there more because I was still doing the radio thing and everything, and I more wanted to observe what was going on. And try to have get a more boots on the ground type opinion of it as it was unfolding, but still definitely in support of what they were doing. And again, I would leave work. I was still in my work slacks and a shirt, but I'm a big white guy.
Shirts, that's standard.
Yeah, well, not button up shirts for me.
Oh, okay.
But I'm a big white guy with a shaved head, so there's some you draw some conclusions there.
Yeah.
But hey,
I think they're just getting into the story.
stop. Fuckheads. Sorry, listeners are used to it. And I was going down there one night, and it was a night that was more active than other nights. There was a tremendous amount of people there. It was not just Black Lives Matter. There was a bunch of groups down there, including a group that presented themselves to be Black Bloc. And I swear that's what they titled themselves at. But as me and you were looking up, the Black Bloc is more of a tactic. It's more of a form of dress to hide your identity, to be part of this anti-fascist movement or anarchist movement or whatever.
Not to be confused with New Kids on the Block,
right.
who are nowhere near as violent.
What are their position on fascism? Do you know?
I don't know.
I think they were more into fashion.
Fashionism.
Fashion. You cannot wear that, and we will make you not wear that because it does not go with your eyes. Anyway, I was down there, and the night I was down there, I was multiple nights, but this particular night, I could feel like negative energy from this group of people. As I was walking around, I had my phone out, taking pictures and doing video, observing, not protesting, not challenging anybody or anything like that. And my first encounter was with a young lady, a very petite lady who was, I was just down there trying to talk to people and have conversations, like asking them things and things I could talk about on the radio the next time I was down.
But you didn't have like a microphone like Michael Moore or anything going up, or just like the camcorder and
just my phone, and I had some business cards I was giving out to represent who I was. It's
Sure.
I'm Joey. I'm with this radio show, Pardon the Descent, whatever. And the first
Rest
time,
in peace, Pardon the Descent.
Rest in peace, short lived, but
Descent right to the end.
Pardon the death.
Yeah.
But the first reaction I got was from the one girl, and she was like, "Fuck you! I don't give." And like, you're not even listening to what I'm saying. You're judging me, whatever. So I'm walking around the side of the precinct, and then there's this group that are dressed in mostly black, faces covered like that, and how you can feel, sense danger coming. I knew something didn't feel right, so I kind of started going back the other way, and as I was there, I did witness them with my eyes. This is
the easiest thing to witness with,
right? Well, I saw it on video, or I was like there, like I saw where they were throwing chunks of concrete over the fence of the police station, hitting police cars. Not saying that bothered me too much. I don't not a big deal to me, but it was happening, and that was a point of dispute in the media. Like, no, it never happened. They weren't doing that. Well, I saw it with my eyes. This was happening. This actually did happen, and then I left. Because I was, again, sensing, that I was in danger. And I had a friend down there who was part of that group or associated with that group. His name is Sam. I'm not going to give his last name. But a guy who I actually like. He's very pro-Antifa, but I like him as a human being. He's, where you're sitting right now, he's set. He hasn't been on the podcast yet, but we've had conversations. We've enjoyed cannabis together. I
also
like
great hair, I assume, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
No, actually.
Oh, then I'm not thinking. Okay.
No.
All right.
I don't think you know this guy. But anyway. But a good dude. And he's like, "Yeah, you dude, I just had to tell them they were getting ready to jump you." I was like, "Yeah, I kind of felt something was weird." He's like, "Yeah, there's, it was my friends with the blue." I was like, they thought you were just some either reporter or somebody, white nationalist, whatever, was down there causing problems. They were, just based on my appearance, without having a conversation with me, without me saying anything.
Yeah.
They were plotting to do violence against me because I didn't look the way I was supposed to look in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
So it bothers me when these people are, they're just out there trying to fight fascism and all this stuff. The fuck they are. This group wasn't. Again, maybe it's a unique group.
The New Kids on the Block are totally different than the Block Boys.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
But no, that definitely, that's what they were doing to you was profiling.
Right.
And I mean, what do you wear? Do you wear a shirt that says I'm not a white supremacist? Because that also seems like something an undercover white supremacist.
You're not going to trick me with that "I'm not a white supremacist" trick.
Yeah. The old "I'm not a white supremacist when I'm really a white supremacist" trick.
Too smart for that. Yeah. So, and again, that could just be that group, but it doesn't feel to me that they're putting a lot of thought into the violence that they're putting out there.
But do you think the average person...
Not that you should, even if you think that out, it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely not,
Do you think the average person cares about Antifa fighting like the Proud Boys and stuff, or do they both just see it as just fucking guys going out and beating the shit out of each other?
A little from column A, a little from column B. I think,
Okay.
when you get to the point, and I think I'm saying this for both sides, when you get to the point where you're so tired of being without power, without influence, and every political cycle, neither side is happy in the end or the beginning of it. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's some things maybe going on in your own life that you want to redirect that negative energy to. That's just maybe as a natural reaction. Again, it goes back to the gang thing and the group things and
I
wanting
think
to
at a
fit in.
certain point, once you join a gang, once you join a group, I think it was Brave New World Revisited by Huxley. He talks about like groupthink and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like the second you join a group, your independent thinking, your reason, it shoots down. Because then it's just like, well, this is my group, and then what are my orders?
Well, it's a dopamine reaction.
Yeah.
Because anytime like, oh, you like what I like? That's great. Now we're two people. So now you've made my point of view justified because now we're together. And now there's two of us and there's one person that doesn't like that. So let's admonish that person. And now we feel better about ourselves because we've got strength in numbers, or we got whatever, or we've got a sense of control that we've never had before.
Yeah.
And even if it's minute in a literally
or protection or purpose.
Right. Purpose. That's a good thing too. It's like people are lost in this world. They don't know. They need something to fit in.
And you don't have a family, you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a church. It's your fucking...
You're a proud boy, you don't have a proud girl.
You don't have a pride girl.
Right, your truck broke down, whatever. Either side, I think there's a lot of that going on in that. And I think that's probably... There's people who, especially if you look at like the Nazi movement, like there's people who capitalize on that, youth that are lost in the world.
Oh, for sure.
And they're like, oh, no, come on in. And they know what they're doing. They know that a simple mind is easily molded, right? And you may not come in the door believing that stuff, but if you have to do it to get this sense of family, this sense of togetherness, that you default to that because it's there for you. So I wonder if we could remove that from it and just put some logical, honest thought on both sides, how many of those people would actually be out there in the first place. There we go. Another episode of the Filter Free America podcast is pulling back into the station. Is that a thing? Pulling into the spot, ending. That's what we're doing. We're ending this episode. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed the fucking your letter. I mean, half the show was your fucking you contributed. You asked the questions. I just provided the answers. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it educated you a little bit more on who I am and the lore of the podcast, the mighty Filter Free America podcast. No anal in the Olympics, none. What else? Oh yeah, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with the very funny comedian Robert Baril. It was very good to have that. We haven't spent a lot of time together over the last few years, and where I used to see him fucking sometimes daily, like at open mics and everything else like that, but almost always weekly, because we would record podcast episodes together or do each other's radio shows or whatever, thing like that. So it's fucking cool for me just to sit down and talk with him again. And he's somebody I really enjoy talking with those type of things for, because he is pragmatic. You know that means realistic. He's a realistic democratic socialist who has a lot of good ideas and a lot of good perspectives. Some of them, I could do without. But whatever. I love the guy to death, and I hope you enjoy him too. I hope you go to find his album. What the fuck is this? Where's my fucking notes? It's in my fucking hand. Hope you find him on iHeart, Spotify, or Pandora. Find his album, Sex and Politics. He also just recorded another album. He's got another album in the can, as we say in the big leagues. It's in the can. It's ready to go. It's ready to go sent off to get pressed. I don't know when it's coming out. Probably soon, maybe, whatever. But he's going to be back on. We're going to get him on like a full regular episode where he tells me a weird story or whatever, like a normal episode that we do here. Knowing him, it's probably going to be a fucking story about his goddamn hair. He's got great hair. It really does. It's amazing. It's amazing. piece of hair, multiple pieces. But yeah, check him out as well too. Anything else? Oh yeah, thank you to the sponsor, simplewebsite.us. Simplewebsite.us. One more time, simplewebsite.us. Thank you to all the listeners. You are wonderful, fantastic human beings who are very helpful in providing me an audience. I guess that's what you do. You give me somebody to talk to. I don't know. Maybe you're just playing me in the background because it makes your fucking crying ass baby shut the fuck up whenever they hear my voice. Maybe that's all it is. And if that's the case, that's fine. As long as I get the download, that's perfectly fine with me. It's good. Guys, this will be released as soon as I get done rambling here. So tomorrow is Monday, or actually it's Monday right now. Have a wonderful fucking week. Hope all your dreams come true. If you have dreams, I hope they come true. The good ones, not the bad ones. I hope all your desires, your aspirations, I hope you either achieve them or get one step closer to achieving them, right? Even if your aspirations are climb a high mountain, I hope you're able to do that. Or maybe your aspirations are more transient, a little simpler, and you just want to fucking bang that married lady down the street. I hope that shit works out for you. I do. I hope you're driving by and you give a little wink, and she gives you a wink, and you're like, is husband home? And she's like, no, he's out. He's gone. You want to come inside and fuck me? And I hope that aspiration, that dream comes true for you. I do. I don't know. Just be done before he gets home. Unless he's into that, then whatever. Guys, spade neuter your pets and children. Keep seeking the truth. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. It's a world that we share together. It's a tiny fucking rock floating around in a gigantic, they claim infinite universe. Let's work it out here. Let's work it out here on the planet. Let's be friends, right? Put down our silly differences. Fucking anything that's encouraging you to hate or not like somebody. Drop that shit for a little bit. Have a fucking conversation. If I can teach you anything with this podcast, it's the value of a good conversation. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Talk to you next episode. Bye. Bye.